Okay. Okay, so what we're looking at today is Choiceless Awareness by J. Krishnamurti. Okay, I'm going to read a few pages, and then I think I want you to hear what Krishnamurti says about being able to be in nature without a me. You see, the whole teaching of non-duality is pointing to a fact that in order to really see reality, to see what's real, not what you think is real, but to see the actuality of the what is, the only way you can do that is without an identification with this me, with this ego. To be able to free ourselves from the past, the psychological past, because the me is made up of all the memories and all the experiences we have ever had. And that's the past. And so what happens in our daily life is that no matter what challenge we meet, we're always meeting it with the eyes of the past. So we're not able to see clearly without that. What would any situation look like if there was clear, fresh seeing? What would any problem look like if we were looking at it not from the eyes of the past, but from the now, from the here and now? And that's what Krishnamurti is going to talk about today. And then if we have time, I'm going to read a few paragraphs of an actual experience of looking at life without the me. But here we go. Let's start and see what he has to say. I wonder what most of us are seeking. And when we do find what we seek, is it totally satisfactory? Or is there always the shadow of frustration in that which we have sought out? And is it possible to learn from everything, from our sorrows and our joys, so that our minds are made fresh and are capable of learning infinitely more? Most of us listen to be told what to do or to conform to a new pattern, or we listen merely to gather further information. If we're here with such an attitude, then the process of listening will have very little significance in what we're trying to do here. And I'm afraid most of us are only concerned with that. We want to be told. We are listening in order to be taught. And a mind that merely wants to be told is obviously incapable of learning. I think there is a process of learning which is not related to wanting to be taught. Being confused, most of us want to find someone who'll help us not be confused. I think it's very important to learn about oneself, because it is only then that the mind can be emptied of the old, the psychological old. And unless the mind is emptied of the old, there can't be anything new impulse. It is this new creative impulse that is essential if the individual is to bring about a different world, a different relationship, a different structure of morality. And it is only through totally emptying the mind of the old that the new impulse can come into being. the impulse of reality, the grace of God, the feeling of something completely new, unmeditated, something which has never been thought of, which has not been put together by the mind. Without that extraordinarily creative impulse of reality, do what you will to clear up the confusion and bring order in the social structure, it can only lead to further misery. I think this is fairly obvious when one observes the political and social events that are taking place in the world. So what is he saying? He's saying that no matter what we try to do to bring order to disorder in our society, it's not going to help. Because unless there's a change in the mind, unless there's a revolution, a psychological revolution in the mind, and that means seeing things not from the eyes of the past, seeing things not from the me. Because if you saw things not from the me, then where is self-interest, right? Then where is me against you? Then where is what's good for me? And then maybe I'll think about you, maybe. But that's all the me. Without the me, that wouldn't be there. So until that changes, you'll have one structure of society, then you'll have another structure of society, but it's not going to change. That's according to what he's saying. So there is a learning, he says, which begins with self-knowledge, a learning which comes with awareness of your everyday activities, what you do, what you think, what your relationship is with another, how your mind responds to every incident and challenge in your daily life. If you are not aware of your response to every challenge in life, there is no self-knowledge. You can know yourself as you are, as you actually are, not as you think you are, not as you would like to be, but as you actually are. Only in relation to something, in relation to people, in relation to ideas and to things. If you assume anything about yourself, that you're the higher self, and you start from that, well, then your mind has formed a conclusion and you're incapable of learning about yourself. Okay, I'm skipping around because I don't want this to be too long. Now, he says, this takes work, to really watch yourself. It's very interesting when you think about, how do I react to a challenge, or forget a challenge? How do I react? The door is stuck. I can't open the door, right? I've got the key. I can't open the door. What's my reaction? That's a simple incident. What's my reaction? Do I panic? Do I try a number of times and then I panic? What's my reaction to the simplest things in life? What's my reaction to a greater challenge? How do I respond? And that's so interesting because I find that I ask myself that a lot. How did I respond to that? What would happen? And that's after the response. In the moment, there's just a seeing. And that's what's important. Just a seeing in that moment. And actually, that happened the other day. I put the key in the door and it didn't work. And I said, oh, well, why is it not working? And then I saw suddenly the mind go to, oh, am I going to be locked down? Oh, did something happen? Is the key broken? Did I get a bad key? And I did. You see how the mind is reacting. And then I looked up and I said, I was on the wrong floor. It was the wrong door. So, but do you see my point? The point, and that's the point he's making. And this is silly little things. But do we see how we react in the moment? Because that begins to show us the workings of the mind, the workings of the me. That shows you, that's a pointer. And in that moment, it's very, very important not to then put yourself down, berate yourself. What a stupid thing. How could I? No, 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 no. It's just a fact. It's just seeing a fact and letting it go. Just seeing the fact and letting it go. So anyway, this is what he's pointing to when he says, what's your response to any challenge in life? What is that response? And are you aware of it? Or do you just go on automatic and react from the old way of being? Because, you know, any challenge in life creates an enormous amount of stress. And under stress, we all regress. And we regress to our most fundamental, immature way of being. So it's important to just put a spotlight on that and just to see what is the reaction. Anyway, here we go.
But does that necessarily make for any change?
We're not talking now about change. Now we're just talking about observation. Just to observe. We don't want to comment on it. We don't want to criticize it. We just want to see it. Clear seeing. That's all we want right now. And then we'll hear what he says about it. There can obviously be no end to misery in the world as long as the mind does not understand itself. After all, the world in which we live is not the enormous world of political activities, of scientific research, and so on. It's the little world of the family, the world of relationship between two people at home or in the office, between husband and wife, between parents and children, teacher and pupil, lawyer and client, policeman and citizen. That is the little world we all live in. But we want to escape from that world of relationship and go out into an extraordinary world which we have imagined and which really doesn't exist at all. If we don't understand the world of relationship and bring about a fundamental transformation there, we cannot possibly create a new culture, a different civilization, a peaceful world. So it must start with ourselves. The world demands an immense and radical change, but it must begin with you and me. And we cannot bring about a real change in ourselves if we don't know the totality of our world, of thoughts, of feelings, of action. If we are not aware of ourselves from moment to moment. And you will see, if you are so aware, that the mind begins to free itself from all the influences of the past. After all, the mind is now the result of the past, and all thinking is a projection of the past. It is simply a response of the past to challenge. So merely to think of creating a new world will never bring a new world into being. A mind that would understand that which is true, that which is real, that which is good, or that which is beyond the measure of the mind, give it whatever name you like, must be empty. Must be empty. So is it possible for the mind to free itself of this me, of this observer, of this watcher, without a motive? Can you forget yourself entirely, without any compulsion, without any desire for a reward or for fear of punishment? Just forget yourself. I don't know if you've ever tried it. Has such a thought even occurred to you? Has it ever come to your mind? And when such a thought does come, you immediately say, well, if I forget myself, how can I live in this world where everybody is struggling to push me aside and to get ahead? To have a right answer to that question, you must first know how to live without the me, without the experience, or without the self-centered activity, which is the creator of sorrow, the very essence of confusion and misery. So is it possible, while living in this world, with all its complex relationships, with all its travail, to abandon oneself completely and be free of the things which go to make up the me? One last line. Our fear is not of the unknown, but of letting go of the known. Okay. So I want to just take another minute and then we'll go over what we just read. Because I think in such a simple yet profound way, he's pointing to something that's so true. So it puts the responsibility, and what does responsibility mean? The ability to respond. So it puts that responsibility, that ability to respond onto each one of us. And you just imagine, I mean, if enough people were able to do that, to free themselves of the self-centered activity and to go past themselves, what world we indeed might be living in. But let me just share with you, because I think I thought it was beautiful. You'll see what you think of it. Let me just quickly find it. Just bear with me a minute. I'll find it. I think I'll find it. Wait a minute. I may have passed it. Okay, here we go. This is Krishnamurti, and he wrote this, and this is what he said. That morning, the sea was like a lake on an enormous river, without a ripple, and so calm that you could see the reflections of the stars so clearly in the morning. The dawn had not yet come, and so the stars and the reflection of the cliff and the distant lights of the town were there on the water. And as the sun came up over the horizon in a cloudless sky, it made a golden path. And it was extraordinary to see the light of California filling the earth and every leaf and blade of grass. And as you watched, a great stillness came into you. The brain itself became very quiet, without any reaction, without a movement. And it was strange to feel this immense stillness. Feel isn't the word. The quality of that silence, that stillness, is not felt by the brain. It is beyond the brain. The brain can conceive and it can formulate or make a design for the future, but this stillness is beyond its range, beyond all imagination, beyond all desire. You are so still that your body becomes completely part of the earth, part of everything that is still. And as the slight breeze came from the hills, stirring the leaves, this stillness, this extraordinary quality of silence was not disturbed. The house was between the hills and the sea, overlooking the sea. And as you watched the sea so very still, you really became part of everything. You were everything. You were the light and the beauty of love. Again, to say you were a part of everything is also wrong. The word you is not adequate because you really weren't there. You, the me, didn't exist. There was only that stillness, the beauty, the extraordinary sense of love. The words you and I separate things. This division in this strange silence and stillness doesn't exist. And as you watched out of the window, space and time seemed to have come to an end. And the space that divides had no reality. That leaf and that eucalyptus and the blue shining water were not different from you. Meditation is really very simple. We complicate it. We weave a web of ideas around it, what it is and what it's not, but it's none of those things. And because it's so simple, it escapes us. Because our minds are so complicated, so time-worn and time-based. And this mind dictates the activity of the heart. And then the trouble begins. But meditation comes naturally, with extraordinary ease. When you walk on the sand or look out of your window or see these marvelous hills burnt by last summer's sun. Why are we such tortured human beings with tears in our eyes and false laughter on our lips? If you could walk alone among those hills or in the woods or along the long white bleached sands, in that solitude, you would know what meditation is. The ecstasy of solitude comes when you are not frightened to be alone, no longer belonging to the world or attached to anything. Then, like that dawn that came up this morning, it comes silently and makes a golden path in the very stillness, which was at the beginning, which is now, and which will be always there. I thought that was beautiful.
It is
I
beautiful.
understand that, I don't understand that.
Really?
What you were doing, I mean, I understand what he was saying.
But he said the same thing here, Steve, in this book. What did you tell me? Tell me, what did you not understand?
I don't know, just been fully understanding and.
Tell me.
Yeah, just maybe just the wording and all, this is more and more brought down more to reality.
Yeah.
You know, brought down, you're walking in the woods, you're doing that, and I can relate to that, your mind goes blank and you become part of the beach, the waves and all that stuff. Like, I don't know if I could relate to what was going on there so much.
Well, what you're just describing is walking along without a me. Because when you're walking on the sand, or when you're walking on a path, or when you're walking through beauty, then you become part of it.
You're understanding how to get the meat out of it.
How to get the
Be
meat.
like the beauty, be like this, you know, and
No.
what likes that thing.
Yeah, but you, when you're in that moment that you're in that beauty, you're not thinking of me, of the me.
I know what you mean, watch it for different.
You the me isn't there.
You can space out looking out the window.
Minute later, the me comes in and says, "What a beautiful view. I wonder if I'll be able to get that view again next year."
Well, that's what I was thinking when you were reading this, like, yeah, I think you can experience it for a few seconds. And then boom, everything comes back, and then you can experience it again
Yes.
for a few
Yes.
seconds, but I don't
Yes.
know any kind of how to
Yes.
stretch that out.
But listen to what he said to you. Listen to what he told you here. He said to you, "Gonna get my other glasses on so I can see it better." What he said to you.
5 foot yes, 10 foot yes.
Wait, he says to you, there is a learning which begins with self-knowledge, a learning which comes with awareness of your everyday activities, what you do, what you think, what your relationship with another is, how your mind responds to every incident and challenge of your daily life. If you're not aware of your response to every challenge in daily life, there is no self-knowledge. So to know yourself, how are you going to free yourself if you don't know yourself, right? And how are you going to know yourself unless you see yourself in action, unless you see this me in action? And you can see it by the thoughts, by the movements, by the actions. And I love it, by the response. How easy is that? Just to see the response to any challenge, just to see in that moment. And remember, the seeing is the doing. The minute you see it, you pull the plug on it. When I told you the silly thing about the key in the door, the minute there was an awareness of the mind started to go, and I was able to pull that plug on it, just the seeing had me look and see I was at the wrong door. But that's because the mind stopped. And there was no more, is it going to be this? What's going to be that? How is this going to happen?
You took the clutter out of the mind.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
like cleaning the closet every day, but he's saying every moment. And you may not be able to do it every moment, so forget every moment. Why don't you just concentrate on the hard moments? That's it. Just concentrate on the hard moments, because you know, in the happy moments, in the beautiful moments, there is no me anyway. That's why so many sages encourage you to be in beauty as much as you can.
To be what?
To be in beauty as much as you can. That's why, Janet, you love your garden,
Yes.
right? That's you're in your beauty.
Well, I wanted to comment on what Linda was saying, that I too can get it a moment, that for breakfast, I used to, walk around, drink my coffee, put on my makeup, do my hair, blah, blah, blah. And what I've decided, and it's so easy here, but I do it in East Hampton, and I do it in New York, in the city too, is that I don't do anything while I'm drinking my coffee, and I just watch. Here, I'm just watching the ocean. I'm not
Good.
doing anything else. In East Hampton, there's a certain tree that I like, that I'm
Yes.
watching the tree. In New York, there's a certain building I like, even though that's man-made.
Yes,
And
yes,
not natural.
yes.
And that, yes, I feel just that I'm just, there's no me. I'm just a part of whatever it is that I'm absorbing myself in. But like Linda said, life moves too fast.
Okay.
And I can't sustain it.
Okay, so the challenge here then, don't worry about sustaining it. Just have an awareness of those moments that you're free. Why don't you just do that? Because you know what happens, that expands. When you have awareness of that freedom, it expands. That's all. This is not supposed to be a challenge that says, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. This is not a,
Or I'm failing because
or
I
I'm
didn't do it for an
failing.
hour.
Yes, no, because that's the me again. The whole idea is to see the working of the me. And the seeing is the doing, the moment. Look, the moment you see that a response to an incident brought up a feeling of envy. Krishnamurti likes to use that too. Rita brought up a feeling of envy. Just to see it. Don't do anything with it. Just see it. Because the moment you saw it, you were already out of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen
And
it.
you're avoiding unhappiness and misery.
That's right. You're right, Barbara.
And that's sort of the point, is that miserable, and that'd be great, misery with others.
Absolutely, because now envy arose, it appeared, and now you got on the train with that. And I shouldn't be envious. Or why does he have more than what I have?
Starting to that person. and
That's
your
right.
friendship.
That's right. That's right. We just saw an interesting film about a marriage. And in this film, the husband and wife were both artists of sorts. And it was clear that she compared herself to him and felt less than. Well, she felt less than anyway, psychologically. She came to that marriage feeling less than. But then when you're an artist and you're married to someone else who's an artist, and that other person is getting a recognition and you're not, then if you compare yourself, then you're plugging into that less than feeling, and that expands. So now this marriage, which fundamentally wanted love, and there was some light of love in it, couldn't be whole. It couldn't be whole because there was
Well,
competition.
the jealousy with her was.
That's
She
right.
could never be happy for him. It was.
That's right.
Is this
That's-
It was.
Yes, it was.
Two strangers trying not to kill each other.
Yes. It was an interesting film.
It was.
It was an interesting film.
Yes.
Two people, two strangers trying not to kill each other.
Yes.
So, but the point here is that that's another opportunity to watch the me in action, to see how I respond with jealousy to my own husband, which I profess to love so much, because he's getting recognition and I'm not, right? Rather than, I am so thrilled that you're getting, right? Because if the me is not there,
You can envy something without being jealous of somebody.
Can't you?
I always had the wrong definition of envy. Like I could envy Paul because he did his work in the stupid pizza place he built in Bonn.
yeah.
I could envy, but I'm not jealous of him. I sort of
Why do you
respect.
say?
No, then it's
the wrong
not.
word.
No.
Be happy for him.
Now, you admire that, you don't envy. No, that's not it.
Look up and envy someone, a certain part of their character. But envy is the wrong word. I know that I've always had that.
It's not envy. I'm talking about
I kind of
envy.
heard it backwards also.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
right.
good.
But the point is, we're talking about envy.
Right?
That's different. That's not wanting something good for somebody, or seeing something good that somebody else has and feeling right. So, but the point is, the main point is just seeing that that's the response, just seeing it without beating yourself up for having it. The minute you beat yourself up for having the response of envy, you're in the me that we're trying to see.
I feel when I see, you used to talk about pulling the plug,
Mm.
okay, so I feel like I see it, but I have to pull the plug, it's like a two-pronged, you know, I'm like, I see that, oh, now, you know, like, let it go. Like, I almost say that, you know, say, let it go, or, you know,
Okay.
so I don't know, like, what is that
Okay.
dynamic?
Usually, really, when I say pull the plug, I'm really saying the seeing is the
Is the
doing.
doing,
That in the minute that you see it, the plug got pulled. However, if it doesn't and it still continues, then there's no harm in saying to oneself,
let it go.
let it go, let it go.
Yeah, I had two experiences like that, but, you know, and the thing I mentioned about just watching the ocean and not doing anything. So, oh, I have to do it, oh, I better do it. And I said, no, you're watching the ocean. Stop.
Right,
You know,
relax.
and I
Yes.
said, just
Yes.
wait, you know,
Yes,
and I did have
Yes.
to do whatever I said I had to do,
right,
but I didn't have to do it then.
Right,
right,
And that was what, that was awareness. And
right.
then I felt that, I feel envy sometimes. And I have found that I could feel envy without it affecting who I feel envious of. That, you know, I say, okay, so I feel envious, you
Yeah,
know.
fine.
And that's it. I've been able to
Yes.
do that. And in the past, I would have said, oh, what's the matter with you? Why are you envious? You know,
No.
or I would have been angry at the person I'm envious toward.
What if there is it possible to live without envy? All human beings have envy towards something.
And that might be,
Is it possible to not have envy towards?
but that's the question he asks, doesn't he? He said, is it possible to live in this world where we're getting pushed around, where there is competition, where actually we're conditioned to compete from little children on? Can that change?
There's athletes in the theater, there are people that are better actors, and we see people that are worse actors on stage, at least they think so.
Yes.
And, you know, they have to be angry about that, or they can just say, I missed my chance, or whatever, they can be themselves.
No, but the idea is to just have an awareness of where the mind takes you and how the mind, what's the word? And how it perceives and how it, oh, I'm sorry, I'm losing the word. You know, when you, oh, forget about it. I lost the word. Anyway, maybe it'll come back. But just to see the workings of the mind, how your thoughts move. That's it. That's what you want to see. Now, what about what he said here about the two worlds we live in? You know, the big world of society and politics, and, you know, and the real world we live in, which is the little world of our friends, our family, our immediate surroundings. And he says here, doesn't he? Can we correct that? Can we see that? Can we watch and have an awareness of our responses in that world? I think that's very important, because he's right when he says the change begins with us, with what's inside of us. And I don't know that I can necessarily change what's out there, although I think it's wonderful and it's a blessing that there are people out there that do contribute wonderfully to the good of humanity. I don't know that I could do that out there, but can I do that in here? Can I start in here in my immediate world? Is there jealousy? Is there envy? Is there hard feelings? Is there resentment? How much of that is going on in our little world, our immediate world? And can we have an awareness that that's what's going on? And that's the workings of the me in our little world. Let's start there.
What's
And-
the difference between the me and the self?
All right, well, in this, what we're saying, the self, and in non-duality teachings, there's the self with the small s, which is the me, the ego. And there's the self with the large s, which is the ultimate reality, that the only reality that really exists and that we're all a part of. But we've identified ourselves not with the absolute reality, but the little reality, the me. And now the question is, can we begin to disidentify with that? Or are we afraid, as he said, we're not afraid of the unknown, we're afraid of letting go of the known. Can we not be afraid? But look, we have to see, but we have to start slowly.
And Janet, it's always good to remember, there's no me without the movement of thought. Right? The me comes into being only with the movement of thought.
Correct.
So if I sit here quietly and I'm truly quiet, it will only be a matter of time before thought starts to move. And it'll either move in the past or it'll be moving into the future. And it'll probably be thoughts about me, myself. That's how the me lives, via thought, right? And so when thought is just concerned with making plans to get to the airport, to call my friend, to make a grocery list, whatever, that's one thing. But it's the thoughts about my self-image that keep me alive. Right? So me is the thought. There's no independent me without thinking.
That's right. That's right.
It still says it's impossible to live without envy, or everybody envies something.
Yes, why is it not possible?
I think it is.
I think it is. Why is it? Why do
Well,
we
hold
need
on.
envy?
Maybe
How does envy
maybe
serve us?
Yeah, but maybe one of the best antidotes to envy is to really be clear that no matter who it is that I'm having envy for, they're just as miserable as I am.
It's almost in our age category when you're sick or something. Not that you want company, but you know, everybody has something, you know,
Yeah,
something different. You're gonna be happy for what you don't have, basically, but you know, I don't consider that envy. I mean, I don't look at anybody say, I have a better back than me and say, oh, I wish I had his back, or I wish he wasn't, you know, healthy with that back, or whatever it is. You know, and I think only miserable people do the envy.
what's
Well,
that?
this
I
way.
think it creeps in every once in a while. I mean, I think like, you know, I mean, I don't think I live my life being envious of people. I have a lot. I mean, I don't feel that way. But sometimes you'll say something and go, oh, look at that, you know, and then you touch yourself and you think like, well, look what I have, you know, I have so much, you know, why would?
Yeah,
but
I
think
sit
it-
on the beach and look at all those
Those
beautiful
bodies?
women. And I've never body like that. It's like, where did these people come from? And but then one thing that helps me is gratitude.
Right, exactly.
And then I think, gosh, I'm so
Gratitude
grateful
for
for
You're
what you
so
have.
lucky, right?
Right.
So you do, but I.
So-
do
I never look like that, but
Right.
the one stuff.
So,
Do I think you, like envy is gonna be a part of my life, you know, just hopefully not a lot of my life, but I think it
Yeah.
creeps in.
But then and then I laugh.
You get yourself and you say,
Yeah.
I don't know.
all right, so let me just show, I just want to point something. Paul, tell me, you think this is true? So envy arises, you said. And then I say, oh, look at that, you know, look what she has. So envy arises. And then another thought comes in, but then look what I have. The teaching here is saying
That's not.
that even that's the me,
Exactly.
even that's the me.
Yeah.
So I have to see that.
Right.
Can I see
Okay.
that envy came up, it arose? Oh, look what she has. And just see it
Right.
and that's it. And not do anything, no movement of the,
No
because
rationalizing.
no,
Right.
and no justifying and even gratitude.
Yeah.
If it comes up spontaneously, and it does. The other day, right, Paul, we were sitting, oh, was it last night? And he just said to me,
Sorry, it's a doctor.
isn't this is good, I'm glad. Isn't this wonderful? Look how beautiful it is here. Isn't it wonderful that we're able to be here in this beauty?
Yeah, gratitude.
So that was gratitude, but that came spontaneously.
Yeah.
It didn't come on the heels of, oh, well, I don't care what she has, look what I have.
Yeah.
You see, that's an important, subtle difference, but it's an important difference.
Yeah, I think gratitude is major in terms of how you feel in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, stop.
And it comes spontaneously.
Actually, you don't think about it, but
It just comes.
I think if you train. Take it very formulated as opposed to.
Well, yes, you can see where the mind is moving. Is it moving towards the awareness of gratitude?
80% of the really rich people are scumbags. Because it's an old friend of mine said, much wants more.
Well, that's
And to get
unfortunate,
there in this world, that's a whole other topic.
but that's a whole other.
What about the gentleman?
Oh, all right, Ugo and Bill. I'm sorry, please
Maybe-
join us.
Maybe an emotion like envy, isn't that really a self-protection mechanism by the ego?
Envy? Did you
Yeah,
say?
is it a self-protective mechanism by the ego?
Well, it could
I
be.
mean, it's too much, but is that maybe, and maybe that's a way to be easy on yourself when you do feel envy, is that it's just my ego trying to protect me, you know?
Yes. Again, but it's an aware, but what is the ego? The ego is the me.
Yes.
So again, it's such a wonderful pointer to what the core is or what's underneath that feeling of envy, right? It's just the action of that me, because I don't have as much. I'm less than in some way, right? Otherwise, why would there be envy?
Right.
And if there were no me, there wouldn't be envy. There would just be the fact of what's there. So yes, you could say it's self-protection, because certainly the ego has a need to protect itself. It's very, very vulnerable, right? Because it's based on nothing solid. And you can even go so far as to say, ultimately, it doesn't even exist because it's made up of thoughts. And once those thoughts stop, the me stops. But that's why it's important to watch the movement of thoughts, not the create. I'm not talking about creative thoughts, and I'm not talking about practical thoughts. I'm talking about the psychological thoughts that make up this me.
Well, the title of what you read, Choiceless Awareness, really tells it all. That you be aware as you're going through your day without choice, which means, going back a couple of pages of what you read, it really means that thinking is at the source of all of this. And when you can figure out a way of pausing thinking, you're there. You've arrived. And unfortunately for me, it takes me a lot of practice to do that. I can't do this all day long. Sometimes I can only do it for a few seconds in a day, but that's okay. You just have to accept it. That's the other thing, this other word, acceptance. You have to accept that this is the way you are. And for me, that's hard. And it's been a track to suppress, not suppress, but to come to terms with this ability to understand that when I'm like I'm doing now, I'm talking, I'm coming from a vestibule of words, and that really makes up the sum total of my thoughts. So I don't know really how to express it, but I've come to realize that the minute you start thinking, that's it, you're hooked. The thinking is what provides all this conflict. The thinking is what provides the basis for you to recall, to use memory, which is a wonderful thing, but not the way we've been brought up to use it. And so my one suggestion is, before I shut up, is, for Christ's sake, go out and buy a copy of that Choiceless Awareness. It should be your Bible if you're interested in this stuff. Amen.
Well, yes, Ugo, for sure. Choiceless awareness is what we're talking about, because that's awareness without the me. It's choiceless. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ciao tutti.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
First time my brain had to think about it.
Excuse me. Hello?
I'm a fighter. Yeah, I'm saying it goes together.
Oh.
Like being